Because I knew you. Because I knew you. I have been changed for good. It's from Wicked.
I figured.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know this beat, it's your girl KylerB coming at you for a new video. So today we're going to be talking about Wicked for Good. So Wicked is basically, this part 2 of Wicked is basically the film adaptation to the Broadway show of Act 2. Wicked is basically, loosely based off of the, book Wicked. Wicked, basically a book adaptation that was made into a Broadway show, and now it's having a film adaptation. So Act 2, say what you want. Act 2, with the source material of Act 2, this was a pretty good adaptation. Now, granted, there is a lot of, critiques to this part because the pacing, first and foremost, the pacing of Wicked for Good was a bit wonky. John M. True, he should have did a bit better with the pacing because people don't even know if it's 5 years, 4 years, or 1 year, how many years since when we saw Defying Gravity. We don't know how much time has passed since between these things. So it's kind of like you just have to infer. I mean, granted, at the beginning of the movie, it says 12 tide turns, but we don't even know what a tide turn is, really. It is 4 years. Some say 5 years, but yeah. So with that being said, Elphaba's on the run. Glinda, Madame Morrible, Oz in cahoots together to hunt down Elphaba. Elphaba, she is trying to help the oppressed animals because she's seeing that, they're getting oppressed, they're losing their voice, they're getting captured and killed. All that is going on in Oz. So she's trying to help them. She could have sided with the, Oz and, Madame Morrible, but she said, no, if you're going to, oppress these animals, I can't stand for that. So that's what Elphaba's journey is. She's trying to help, the people that can't help themselves. So with that being said, Glinda, in cahoots, very complicit with the situation because she knows Elphaba. That's her friend, her so-called friend, and it's just kind of like, you can help Elphaba. You could tell Oz, as you're the spokesperson of Oz, everybody looks up to you. You're the good witch, or you're the good. You could use your spokesperson, your ability to be like, okay, well, my friend Elphaba, is not evil. She's not this is all propaganda. This is all lies, blah 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 blah. She can help Elphaba, but she hasn't done that. She hasn't done that at all. So with that being said, Elphaba on the run. I think when they announced that Fiyero and Glinda were about to get married, they're trying to use that as to bring some liveliness or some cheerfulness into the land of Oz. Unknown to Fiyero's surprise, Fiyero, his heart is not in it with Glinda. Granted, he is with her, but he truly loves Elphaba, and that's shown since part 1. So he didn't even know they're engaged. She basically put that on him. So they're gonna get engaged to get married. Obviously, we know from him that the only reason he's in this guard, or he's in, acting like he's complicit to the situation, is that he's trying to be the one on the scene to find Elphaba, because if anybody else does it, they're not going to have the same, compassion of Elphaba at all. It's the only reason that he's there. He's in the armed guard to help Elphaba find Elphaba, because anybody else will do that. They'll probably hunt her down, kill her, whatever. So he's trying to basically keep a way to protect her. So in this movie, we see, obviously, the pacing's wonky. There's a bit flashbacks to Glinda when she's younger. And that flashback, even though, there's a lot of critiques about, it shouldn't have been needed or why it wasn't there, it's just basically trying to reiterate to the audience that, from a young age, Glinda was basically, taught that, as long as everybody loves her and she's getting everything that she wants, who cares if you didn't really perform that magic trick to get a rainbow? Who cares? Everybody believes it, and because everybody believes it and everybody loves you, then you should, go with that story. And that's also reiterated again when we get to Wonderful. When, Wizard of Oz, when, Elphaba tries to confront the wizard, and then, Glinda shows up, and then she's basically there too. I mean, it was actually a nice touch to have Glinda there to show you that she's also once again complicit with these situations because she's siding with basically the enemies, the ops. So, you know, her and the wizard trying to like basically try to get Elphaba on their side, you know, singing to them and saying like, you know, even if I do tell, you know, everybody in Oz that, you know, I'm not really powerful, I'm not, you know, everything that I said it was a lie or Elphaba is not true, they won't believe it because, you know, they only believe what they agree on. You know, the truth is really only what they agree on. Is basically, they said that he was wonderful, so he said wonderful. So he's like, basically, that's how it's going because, like, they're not going to believe on the real truth. Like, and basically, only Galinda at this point really, or the wizard, only has that power to say, like, hey, this is really the truth, or this is how it goes, because they have that spokesperson. But if everybody starts to believe this whole situation about you, it's gonna be very hard to unlearn that or unbelieve it. So that's what he's trying to tell Elphaba. And they almost had Elphaba until after Elphaba was able to release, you know, Chestery and the other monkeys for freedom. Chestery was like, nah, he has the animals, you know, hidden in cages right here. So, you know, if you really want to do something, like, here you go, here's the whole situation. So once Elphaba found out about those animals in cages, she was just like, yeah, no, whatever we were agreeing on to do, yeah, no. So while this is happening, simultaneously, like, the shot was really cool because you got, you know, Galinda walking down the aisle to marry Fiyero while Elphaba's walking down the room to see all the animals in cages. And while this is happening, you know, Elphaba, she releases the animals. They escape. They have their freedom now. And obviously, you know, the wizard is basically really the evil one now. So disrupts the animals. I mean, I feel like the animals, if any type of disruption was supposed to be had, the animals had that. They were like, nah, no Fiyero Galinda wedding. Basically, with that being said, you know, Elphaba thought, you know, Fiyero was, you know, also complicit too, or also like went against her too. So she didn't know Fiyero still had hope or still really was like looking out for her best interest. So when it got to that scene where, you know, she's, you know, holding, you know, the wizard hostage, and he comes out here with a gun and he's like pointing it at her. And then he tells the guards, like, get water, because they all believe that, oh, some water can melt Elphaba and she can die with some water because she's so unclean and she's so dirty, whatever. So when he points that gun at the wizard, everybody shook. She shook too because she really thought, you know, Fiyero wasn't with her. Fiyero wasn't on her side. And he really is. He really is on her side.
I have turned.
So obviously she was shook, she was stunned, everything. The wizard tried basically saying like, oh, he's a traitor, but they're like, nah, he, you know, obviously he's not a spokesperson, so therefore he can't even tell anybody except for like Madame Morble or whatever. They escape. You know, Glinda feels betrayed because, you know, she really thought that Fiyero was on her side, or Fiyero, you know, was supposed to be the love of her life. But she should have known Fiyero's heart was never in it. His heart was never in it for you, Glinda. I'm just letting you know this now. You know, they escape. As long as your mind comes on, obviously they sing. It was really great, really good. But then obviously Galinda, in, you know, frustration, sadness, whatever, she thought it was the best idea to tell the wizard and Madame Morble, oh, use Nessa Rose to lure Elphaba out. And, you know, Madame Morble has powers to, you know, control the weather. So what she does? Creates a tornado that causes the house to, you know, basically land on Nessa Rose. Nessa Rose is dead. Nessa Rose is dead. Like, basically, she's the catalyst to the reason why her, you know, Elphaba's sister is dead. It's Galinda. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Anyways, we're gonna back up before even the wedding even happened. The whole Bach situation. Bach, he basically, I don't know, delusions of grandeur she was having, because he still believed that him and Galinda had a chance. Galinda never looked at you twice, buddy. Like, let that be known, Bach. She never looked at you twice. So the fact that you still believed that you had a chance with Galinda is kind of wild to me, sir. But anyways, he only asked for his freedom to leave because he's like, I've been with you for a while now, Nessa Rose. I'm trying to get back to Munchkinland. I'm trying to like travel, move, whatever, where you need a permit for munchkins and animals to leave the city of Munchkinland. And she did that. So basically keeping him captured and keeping him basically hostage in the situation. And with that being said, he's just like, well, his whole idea of Nessa Rose changed because it's like, you're just like your sister. Like everything that they're saying about your sister, you're just like her because you're being evil, you're being rude, you're whatever. So like, as soon as Elphaba comes into the mix, she tries to say hello, tries to say like, well, since you're in the place of power, Nessa Rose, can you try to help me to stop the wizard? And she was just like, oh no, you weren't with me. So the same girl who had like a basically bratty attitude when she was younger didn't appreciate Elphaba's, help and protection when she was younger, now wants Elphaba's help and protection now, which I'm just like, you don't know what you have until it's gone, to be honest, because now you're like, oh, Elphaba should be by your side, but you never wanted Elphaba by your side. Elphaba helps you get back the feeling as you were at the Ozdas, I think it was able to help you walk or whatever with with the shoes. And with that being said, once she does that, and then Bach is like, oh, I'm gonna go leave to get, say something to Galinda, you're like, oh, you decide to shrink his heart, almost kills Box. And if it wasn't for Elphaba, turning him into a Tin Man, basically saving Box's life, you wouldn't even have your Box. So I'm just like, you blame Elphaba for, Bach being a Tin Man. Granted that she did turn him into a Tin Man, but you almost killed Bach. If she never came in and saved him, you would have never had a Bach to even speak to or be like, oh, it's Elphaba's fault, da 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 da. And basically, for you blaming Elphaba, it's just like, girl, like Nessa Rose, you can go. The line was just so unserious. Because what you mean, oh, she saved me from being in the cage, and now I'm cowardly because of her. Like, sir, she saved you from being oppressed. You're the reason that you're still able to talk. A lot of these animals can't even talk nowadays. Look at Chestery. He barely could talk until the end of the movie. But I'm just like, you're mad at Elphaba for saving your life? And it was so funny in the song when, Bach was saying, oh, she kidnapped him when he was a cub. And like, hello? Like, what? It was so unserious. And if she never did that, he wouldn't be a coward today. Like, bro, that was so unserious. That song is just so funny to me. And like, it was just so funny. Like, Elphaba, Bach, yeah, he may have had, like, a reason to be upset with Elphaba, but just, like, it was still misplaced because it's really Nessa Rose. If Nessa Rose never made him to be a hostage in, the Munchkinland city or whatever, he probably wouldn't have that idea, because actually Bach and Elphaba were kind of, sort of kind of friendly. And that's another thing. The whole situation about the friendship, that the thing is, we have a lot of flashbacks to their time in the meadow, but it's just like, we never really got to really experience them as friends besides the Ozda situation. So it's just kind of like, okay, when you go flashback to the meadows, it's just kind of like, the only really relationship that we really get to see is Galinda, Elphaba, Galinda, Fiero, and then Elphaba, Fiero. We don't really get to see, the whole 5 of them really being friendly like that. So it's just kind of like, okay, was there really a friendship here or not? But it's really their story. It's really the 5 of their story. So I mean, granted, they could have done better by showing that friendship, but it wasn't really like fleshed out in these movies. So moving on, no good deed happens, because when Elphaba comes back and she tries to mourn the loss of her sister, Nessa Rose, Fiero comes and follows her, and basically once again was like, I gotta protect Elphaba. He gotta protect Elphaba. Has the gun pointed at Galinda, and he basically saved Elphaba. And one thing about Fiero, he never played about Elphaba. He never played about her. He never played about Elphaba at all. He basically risked his life, everything that he had, basically the skin off his bones, for Elphaba. And it's just kind of just like, the only one who never complained about, whatever that she, spell that she casted on him. Basically, no good thing happens. She's basically trying to like find a spell to help save Fiero's life. Turns him into a scarecrow, but obviously, nobody knows that until the end. After No Good Deed, basically, you know, this is basically Elphaba becoming like the actual embodiment of, after her trying to save Fiero, she's never going to try to, you know, do a good act or try to save somebody, help somebody, because everything that she does is like, everybody's like, oh, you know, she tried to help Nessa, it blew up in her face. She, you know, tried to help the animals turned her back against her. So it's just like, okay, well, No Good Deed goes unpunished. Like, you know what, I'm gonna be the Wicked Witch of the West. Like, I'm gonna be this evil person that you guys all, you know, point your fingers and set me out to be. So, but then while this is going on, you know, we got the Dorothy comes in the mix, because after you know, her house from Kansas, you know, basically settles down on Nessa. You know, they come to the Wizard of Oz. Glinda's the one who sent her to the Wizard of Oz to basically say, oh, you know, help her get back to Kansas, even though she knows the Wizard of Oz has no real power. So once again, like, why did he even send her there and then still take the shoes off of Nessa Rose's feet to give to the girl? Like, what? Anyway, she does that, and they sent her to Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz, Madame Morrible was like, oh, we can use these people to get Elphaba, blah, blah, blah. So they were like, oh, if you want to go back home, kill, you know, Elphaba, kill the Wicked Witch, and, you know, give me her broom just as proof that she's dead. So while, you know, Bach basically setting out this witch hunt, basically the witch hunt was, he ate that role as being, you know, setting out the witch hunt, but the witch hunt was so crazy because it just shows how much, like, he believes in the propaganda, and also that from whatever Nessa Rose said, that, you know, she's the one that turned him into tin, and obviously it's her fault, that he has like this such, you know, beef with her for real. Like, this is like a real personal grievance. Like, that's what he has. So they sent out this witch hunt. You know, Galinda, you know, after Elphaba, she, you know, sees that Fiero really loves her and really willing to do, you know, basically doing this selfless act as, like, you know, risking his life for Elphaba, and, you know, all of that. She, and, you know, Elphaba telling her that, you know, you think just a twister, you know, a cyclone just happens out of, like, midair. Like, this is obviously orchestrated by Madame Morrible. And you're in cahoots with the ops. Like, hello? So, you know, once Glinda finally really realizes, like, whoa, like, she really is with the ops, she tries to confront Madame Morrible. Madame Morrible is just like, you wanted to be, you know, loved and be the spokesperson of Oz and this and that. You were silent. You were, you know, complicit. You didn't have any problems before, but now you have a problem. So she finally realized, like whoa, like, she really is the bad guy here. And, you know, she realized, okay, well, time to try to, you know, reach out to Elphaba. Thing is, we don't even know how she figured out where Elphaba is, because after all that, As Long As You're Mine, obviously Fiero tells Elphaba about he has another castle that she can, like, hide out at. Nobody really knows where it is. So I'm like, how does Glinda knows that? So anyway, she reaches to Elphaba. Elphaba, you know, is obviously keeping Dorothy hostage because she wants her sister's shoes. Her sister's shoes is basically very sentimental, because is the shoes that was passed on from her mother to her sister. Now her sister's dead, and that's the last thing of her family, really. So she just wants the shoes back. Dorothy's not giving the shoes. She's down there, and obviously, you know, that little minute of, you know, Elphaba trying to be evil, when speaking to, you know, Galinda and saying, like, you know, she wants to surrender. The thing is when Chestery comes back, Chestery gives, you know, Elphaba a message on the scrap of clothing that was Fiero's, and that's how she has the information of using the trapdoor to fake her death and basically leave Oz. So basically, when she gets that confirmation that, okay, Fiero actually is alive, because if Fiero was dead, then obviously Wicked Witch of the West would have been continued. But because Fiero survived, you know, basically this was the plan that she had, because, like, everything is going south for Elphaba. Like, this is, like, the best thing for her moving forward. So after she got confirmation that Fiero was still alive, the trapdoor situation, she decides to surrender and basically leave Oz. Galinda can't know, so obviously they're singing for good, and, you know, it was, like, too late for Glinda to basically try to clear Elphaba's name, because just, like, you had all this time to be on Elphaba's side, try to clear her name, try to say, like, well, no, I know firsthand the Wizard of Oz has no real power. He's lying to you. He's oppressing these animals, da 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 da. And you're still not like siding with Elphaba and being on her side, knowing how oppressed she is. And it was just like what really hits for the audience is when, you know, Elphaba says, "I'm limited. Just look at me."
And just look at you. You can do all I could do. Glinda.
Like, it's just so, like, and it's also, like, really touching because it's just something, like, obviously Cynthia reveals a black woman who's playing a green character who's obviously the outcast of the society. And it's just, like, you know, you have Glinda she's from the uplands, you know, look at her, blonde, you know, basically spokesperson of Oz, whatever. And it's like, you know what? She had all this power, authority to clear Elphaba's name a long time ago, but now it's just kind of like the Wizard of Oz says, like, it's going to be very hard to basically tell them the truth because they want to believe whatever they want to believe. So she was just like, you know what, you have the, you know, have the power to do whatever, but it's just like, you know, we can't work in tandem anymore. We got to go solo and dolo. Why don't you use your power that you still have for good? You know, it's just like, because I knew you. She's like, somebody has to be good, whilst, you know, for someone to be good, I have to be the Wicked Witch. You know, I have to be your villain in your story, so you can, you know, basically prosper, essentially. And it was like really sad to hear and sad to see, but it really is what it is. You know, essentially Elphaba has to be the bad guy for Glinda to be this good spokesperson, and she's saying it's up to you now. It's like the shoulders of, like, you know, trying to help people that do selfless acts beyond your own, you know, good or whatever. And she's like, it's up to you in the song, like, all that stuff. And it was like really, really sad because it's just like, wow, you're really saying goodbye for the final time. And obviously Glinda, she doesn't know that Fiyero still alive. She doesn't know that Elphaba still alive. She believed that water could kill her, which is crazy, but it is what it is. She believed that the water that Dorothy threw on her could kill her, and she was dead and whatnot. Glad that she finally, like, you know, bossed up, told Madame Morrible, basically, you know, she's going away for murder because she murdered Nessa Rose. She basically found out that, you know, Wizard of Oz is actually Elphaba's father. So with the glass bottle, and, you know, he's like, you know what? You have two options before I tell everybody that you're a liar, or go back to where, you know, Nebraska, like, leave Oz forever. And it's just like, you know, it is what it is. It's really sad. You know, Elphaba and Fiyero gets to go off into the sunset, essentially, to, you know, land outside of Oz. And then Elphaba, and then Glinda, she basically tried to be the good witch, or the good person here, finally and truly. And, you know, it is what it is. I mean, with the story, this is basically the story that we're getting from Act 2 of the Broadway show, and they really did a decent job. And then Elphaba leaving the hat, you know, Elphaba had to leave these things. She had to leave behind Glinda. She can't let Glinda know. She can't take the hat with her as a keepsake. She didn't even take the green bottle with her. The green bottle that she kept with her since she was a kid, of her family. She had to give up everything that she, you know, had that was near and dear with her, and, you know, obviously to start a new life with the love of her life, which is Fiyero. And, you know, it is what it is, and that's how it had to happen. You know, she second guessed taking the hat, but if she took the hat, you know, she couldn't bring in something from Oz into this new life of Fiyero. So, I mean, it was a nice ending, you know, basically just showing you the full characters between Elphaba and Glinda. It was kind of nice to hearing Elphaba and Fiyero being the only two people who call her Glinda and not Glinda, because it just shows you, like, they're still true to themselves. Like, they're still being true to themselves and not being changed by the propaganda and believing in the propaganda and da-da-da-da. Besides that, really good film. I would say Act 1 still clears Act 2. Act 2, though, they have some decent songs. So I would say the top 3 of Act 2 would be For Good, No Good Deed, and As Long As You're Mine. Those are my top 3 songs from Act 2, from Part 2. Wonderful is an honorable mention. Definitely a good movie. nice little wrap up. I'm keep on hearing that they're trying to do a little universe of the Wicked, but I mean, there is more books, but I mean, if this is the story that is focusing on Elphaba and Galinda's story and their friendship, and basically kind of just showing you how they came to be these witches. Like, it clear Act 1? No, it does not, but it's still good to really watch if you do care about musicals or care about the story that is being told through Cynthia and Ariana Grande. But anyway, guys, if you guys like the video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, comments, concerns. You guys to my channel, subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.